I had to start a whole nother stream because YouTube is kind of stupid. So let me just make sure I let everybody know that's on that old stream to come over to the new one, because it's just stupid. If you set up the stream to do it on your phone and you don't go to advanced settings and tell it you want to have your phone set horizontally, then it wants you to go back and change it. But you can't go back and change it. You can only go to the advanced settings when you're setting up the new stream, as far as I could tell. So, okay, looks like I'm live here on this one. So I don't guess it should be necessary to go and tell everybody on the old stream that I'm not on the old stream, right? So let me just see what the crap here. But welcome everybody to the stream. Give me a thumbs up if you got over here from the first one I tried to set up, or do I need to go back over to that other stream and let everybody know that I started on a new stream? I don't know. It's just so stupid because you can't go back and change it. What's up, Brian Hawk? Thumbs up. Good deal, man. Appreciate it. So I'll let y'all pile in for a minute and let me I'd hate to have somebody sitting in that old StreamYard trying to get in, but I don't guess that's a problem because I did delete it. So I don't even think they could be there. So welcome everybody. 11 of you so far, so that's good. If you can hear me loud and clear, let's see some thumbs up in the chat. Maybe get some algorithmic love. Yeah, I spent all that time setting up the details and stuff on the stream, and then of course I had to start a whole new one on the fly, so forgive me, but looks like we're live. Yeah, other stream was removed by uploader. Okay, cool. So looks like y'all found it. Crazy stuff in the news. Really does go to put things in perspective. So I guess I should start by saying, you know, if this gets me in trouble with YouTube, I don't care, because I'm going to speak my mind. That's what YouTube was originally set up to be, is a place where you could speak your mind to your friends and to even people that you don't necessarily know. And if you don't like what someone's saying, you don't have to listen to it. I should really start by saying that the woman laying here next to me that I've been married to for 20 plus years is half Jewish. Okay, so anybody that tries to label me as an anti-Semite they just don't have their facts. As a matter of fact, for whatever reason, most of the main squeezes in my life, for whatever reason, have been Jewish. And it's not like I planned it that way. I was just raised in a household where, like, honestly, I didn't even really know what anti-Semitism was until we learned about Hitler and stuff in school or whatever, right? So, like, and I heard all about World War II from my grandfather, from Papu, but, like, the whole anti-Semitism thing, I didn't even understand that until way later. I was raised in kind of a naive Christian sense, believe it or not. But the point is, though, I've got no beef with Jewish people per se. So again, anybody that tries to say that about me is just full of it. And I guess the reason I got to preface all this is because, well, first of all, the attack on Israel on Saturday was awful. That's an awful thing, damnable, condemnable, and the people that are responsible for that attack should definitely be, you know, they have every right to be dealt with, right? But on the other hand, when you're dealing with innocent children, innocent men and women, that's a horse of a different color. Now, let me back up by saying, yes, the Israelis that were murdered by Hamas were innocent. And of course, they were at a rave. And, you know, there's kind of a soft spot in my heart for ravers because, you know, I was a raver way back in the 90s, showing my age a little bit. But so, you know, there's a lot of people who could condone the attacks just because they hate breakbeats or whatever, or straight beats or whatever. But you're not even going to get that from me, right? So So with that being said, a couple other things I wanted to mention real quick. So I heard it mentioned in the news a couple of times that they were likening this to Israel's Pearl Harbor and to Israel's 9/11. Okay. Now, my opinion on Pearl Harbor was that at the very least, that was probably telegraphed and simply allowed to happen by the government of the United States at the time in order to allow for a pretext for the United States to get involved in World War II. And whether or not that was intentional, it certainly did create the pretext to get the American people behind the, behind the war, the World War II. And so there's a lot of people that have argued that, the American government was warned about that ahead of time. Now, whether or not that's true, it definitely was Pearl Harbor that kicked off American involvement in World War II, for sure. That's undeniable. 9/11 was, of course, likened to Pearl Harbor by another group, which was PNAC, Project for a New American Century, which was sort of this neoconservative think tank that was definitely cronies with the Bush administration and the warmongers and the military industrial complex billionaire companies, right? Through and through. And it was definitely 9/11 that got America involved in the Middle East and, the whole Iraq and Afghanistan conflict, right? And so when I heard it likened on the news that this was, oh, and by the way, so the thing about 9/11 is at the very least, it appears that the US government could have probably prevented a lot of that, but didn't, right? There was just so many coincidences with 9/11. And so treading on careful ground here, because I don't want to get this video taken down, but it makes a lot of sense that they would liken this to those two incidents, because if it turns out that a government ignores fair intelligence warning of impending attacks and does nothing to prevent them or mitigate them or, retaliate to the people responsible directly for the attacks, if they fail to do that in order to allow for an escalated, sort of amplified, multiplied attack, in order to allow for a pretext to go to a larger war, and especially to glean American involvement in that larger war, I'm going to stand up and say right now, I don't consent to that as an American. And the Israelis, I would hope that y'all don't consent and voice your disconsent for the whole cloth slaughter of innocent men, women, and children in the Gaza Strip. This isn't to point fingers and to say who started it or any of that. What I'm saying is there's innocent men, women, and children right now getting slaughtered, indiscriminately butchered. And, I definitely am one of the guys to say stand with Israel, but to what degree, right? To what end? I would say also, stand with the Jedis and stand with, like, say, Anakin Skywalker. But if you're going to ask me to stand with fucking Darth Vader, I ain't doing that. Or like the Emperor dude or whatever, right? Not doing that. You're not going to get me on board with that. I agree that, Israel's in a unique position where they're basically surrounded by enemies. But at the same time, from what I'm seeing in the news and from what I'm seeing on social media, it's not like Hamas is doing much at this point, and they're talking about escalated further bombings and attacks. Those people have nowhere to go. They're hemmed up in there, and we're talking about innocent men, women, and children. pray and beg whoever is in charge of this, and pray to God, God is the God of miracles, to step in and do miracles to protect those innocent people on both sides, and to soften the hearts of these warmongers who, I think it's pretty clear if you look at Gaza even today, it's pretty clear that Israel's made their point. Those people are, they don't have food, water, electricity. They don't have the ability to get really anything into that city that they need. And they don't have the ability to escape. They're in a fucking meat grinder. And if we don't stand up and voice our disconsent of what's going on, then it's kind of on us too. Because, agreed, it's not average people that are fighting wars and doing these killings on either side. It's not average people at all. It's these governments, okay? And like it or not, these governments represent us. And if we're egging them on and saying that they've got our full support because you are bound to one flag or another, sure, they've got our full support, whatever, but not when it comes to this, not when it comes to indiscriminately butchering innocent people. And, I definitely do pray that that the United States doesn't get dragged into this. And, honestly, if this is played wrong, this is probably going to be the start of World War III. If it's not already too late, it might already be too late to avoid literally World War III. But I think we've still got a chance if this is played right, and the United States isn't dragged into this, and Israel chills the fuck out for a minute and lets these people at least get a drink of damn water, and go after Hamas, man, not these innocent people. Like, this is, again, I don't condone it. I don't stand for that. And this isn't about being, and, for anyone to say anti-Semitic, both sides of this are actually, sons and daughters of Abraham, man. So they're all Semites on both sides of that border, okay? Arguably. We won't get into the whole other side of that thing, right? I'm not here to talk about Khazars or none of that. Okay? That's beyond the scope of this video, okay? But if it turns out that, so again, like, I told you about Pearl Harbor, and like, so my grandfather signed up for the Army, actually started off in the Air Force and then went to the Army Corps of Engineers because of Pearl Harbor. He was attending Harvard School of Engineering when that occurred. So if it turns out that the government of Pearl Harbor's era knew that there was an attack coming and did nothing in order to welcome in the sort of necessary pretext for that war, there's a special place in hell for those people that would allow their own people to get like slaughtered in Pearl Harbor. You know what I mean? That's cold. That's callous. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but if that is what happened, dude, judgment is on those motherfuckers hard. Excuse the language, but I know the Israeli people are reeling right now from the attack. There's definitely a lot of pain and suffering on that side, and my heart goes out to them, man. I got a lot of friends that are even over there, right? Like Moisha, praying for Moisha right now. I haven't talked to him. Hopefully he's okay, man. We don't know who got hurt in those rocket shellings. That's crazy, man. But at the same time, I think that the response should be proportional, and I think that the response should be sensible. The only thing that separates us from, the beasts that we say Hamas is the fact that we do value human life, and we don't have itchy trigger fingers And we just don't give a shit about collateral damage. When we start acting like that, then we're the monsters, we're the beasts. And if we as the people don't stand up and voice our discontent and our lack of consent for that, then we're complicit. So my hand's going up right now. I don't consent to it, and I don't consent to American involvement in it either. I don't consent to our money going towards any of these wars, whether it's in Crimea or whether it's this one here. I think we should definitely help out humanitarian likewise, but definitely not when it comes to butchering innocent people, man. That's taking it too far, I think. So I do pray that that the Most High God works miracles for the Palestinian people, man. I really do, and for the Israelis on the other side too. But let's face it, the Israeli military is a bad motherfucker. Those Hamas dudes that did that, honestly, I don't think they expected it to go off so well. I mean, it seems like they were very surprised that they got away with it like they did. And basically, they just waltzed in there, indiscriminately killed people, and waltzed out with a whole bunch of hostages. Okay, that's what it looks like. So, those people are definitely responsible for what they've done. But I don't think those little kids had anything to do with that. Babies and stuff, man. I mean, come on now. That's just taking it too far, man. I'm not on any side of this. I'm on the side of peace, personally, like most people are. Most people ain't into that war shit. It's these politicians, it's these contractors that profit from war, the military industrial complex. And if we don't stand up for our brothers and sisters right now and really in a meaningful way stand up against this sort of evil, then we're complicit, and it's going to happen. It's bound to happen to us sooner or later. Frankly, even if we do stand up and raise our voices against it, it's still possible that sort of shit's going to happen to us in our lifetimes. Anyone who thinks that America is immune to boots on the ground warfare within our lifetimes, you got another thing coming. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. And the way that we handle, and I don't mean just let our government do whatever the fuck they want to do anymore. That shit's got to stop. These motherfuckers are crazy. And if we don't do this right, like I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that within our lifetimes. And frankly, we would deserve everything that comes our way. I mean, let's face it. America's got a very powerful military, and we spend a lot of money on military technology. But like the United States military is like what, 1 million and something strong at the most. Just the Chinese military alone is like over 100 million. Okay, so take that into consideration. Russia to boot. Now, I am one of the sort of believers that these various governments are more along the lines of frenemies. Like the enemy part is more for the press. I do strongly believe that. But at the same time, I also believe that our government really doesn't give a fuck about us, the people. I mean, that's fairly well self-evident, ain't it? And so, anybody that thinks that our government is out there looking out for our best interests when it comes to foreign policy and when it comes to, how we handle wars and proxy wars and that sort of thing, you got another thing coming, right? So, I'm just going to mention one thing. Because after 9/11, I was very much gung-ho, and I bought into all of the hype that the Muslims were evil, and they basically their whole thing was to see Christians dead, and they wanted to take over the world with their religion. I bought into all of that, hook, line, sinker, and the fisherman's boot. But one thing, and this is just one thing that I've learned since then, and that was a long time ago, and I had no idea about this, but the Quran is filled with information about the archangels, namely Gabriel and Michael, at least a couple others, Raphael, Israfil. They've got slightly different names, but it's the same characters, and it definitely seems to fit the character, right? So, again, I was always taught, and I'm not saying that any of these ancient holy books are real. I'm not attesting to that necessarily. But what I am attesting to is if you claim to be a Christian or even a Jew and you believe in the Quran and the Bible, then you have to sort of by default believe in the archangels. I damn sure do. I can't prove to you that the archangels exist, but I can attest to their existence, and believe me or not, that whatever it's worth, who the hell am I? But the thing is, though, I had no idea that Islam had a lot of information about the archangels and other things too. Yeshua, Jesus, is mentioned a few times as a prophet in the Quran. I didn't know any of that either. The creation account in the Quran is very similar. I mean, it does have nuances. There are differences, and whatever your estimation of Islam is, the thing is, man, innocent men, women, and children, we're all created by the same God. No matter what you call the creator, no matter what religion you bow to, and no matter what your understanding of God or creation is, we're all God's children, like it or not. We really are. And you can believe that your faith is the only path to heaven or whatever, and that's fine, to each his own. But I firmly believe if we don't stand up for our brothers and sisters that are getting butchered right now as we speak, and just go along with these crazy fucking warmongers, then that's we're treading a very slippery slope there. So hopefully, if there's anybody out there that's finding themselves, because it can be very easy to hate, especially the way that the world is today, but just remember, on the inside, man, we're all the same. We're all very much the same. And there's good people and evil people of every race, color, and creed. There really is. Anybody that thinks that we're better than anyone else because of the country that we were born in, or how free we are, or because we have the best religion, or we have the biggest bombs, or whatever that is, you can't take none of that with you in the end. But I think that there are things that we can do in this life to make a difference in the end. And one of those things is we definitely got to pray for our enemies. So definitely, y'all, say a prayer for the people in Palestine. And if you have any sort of any political influence, if you have any sort of connections with people that are in political positions in Israel, I would say beg these motherfuckers to take it easy, man. Take a damn break. I think they've made their point. And I'm just afraid that if they keep this shit up, we're going to be on the wrong side of the Most High, creator of all things. And you damn sure don't want to get on the creator of all things side. I don't give a fuck if you do think that you're his chosen people or whatever. If you're butchering innocent men, women, and children, then that shit don't last very long. Excuse my language. I'm just a little bit worked up about this. So, for whatever it's worth, they don't have my consent on this. My heart and prayers goes out to both sides. I pray that the creator of all things works miracles in the open and in secret to go easy on the innocents and to soften the hearts of the people that are in positions to make a difference in this. So I think that about covers what I wanted to say. I really just had to stream on this because it's been bothering me, man. See what the comments say here. School of thought that says we can't even take our souls with us. Now, I don't know about that. I damn sure believe that you're not, anything of the flesh isn't coming with us to the next side. If you're going to be able to take anything with you, it's going to be of the spirit, I believe. What do I know, right? So, yeah. Um, Thomas Jefferson says he bets Lucifer is not even a bad guy. He just got cursed with the reputation for challenging God. Well, I think that a lot of the stories found in the sort of creation account or the pre-human era is very much allegorical, and it can only be second or third generation information, honestly. Like, I believe that the Creator speaks to the prophets, and then the prophets speak to the people, and then the people write stuff down. And then later on, it gets changed and redacted and altered, and that's translated and poorly translated and all kinds of things. And so, like as God's word echoes through this physical plane, it gets further and further away from the source as it sort of echoes through the midst of mortal men, right? But yeah, I don't know, man. So yeah, they say that Lucifer was God's favorite angel. I think there's some myth or lore about that. The Muslims call him Iblis, I believe, and there's a similar sort of character arc with him. I think there's a lot of deception in all of that, though. Like, honestly, there's powerful forces that have gone to great lengths to sort of muddy the waters of those stories. So I think that we get a lot of truth in those stories, but I also think that there's key pieces missing, that we don't really have the full picture, and we've been misled about certain things. So I always default to Yeshua's philosophy, like turn the other cheek, don't even risk it, man. Because at the end of the day, we're all the same. Like we're all the same spirit on the inside. That's the whole thing. Like, pray for your enemies. And there's going to be wheats and tares as well. There's real evil out there. I was the type of person for the longest time. I lived my life thinking that everybody has the potential for redemption, and there really isn't evil people. It's just like really deceived people and really greedy people that have been sort of seduced by these forces. But in the last few years, I've actually come to believe that there are actually genuinely evil fucking people out there. Okay, so like the whole wheat from the tares parables, and at the end of the day, you got to sort of wait for everything to grow before you can reap out the thorns or whatever, right? So I don't know, man. Shadowfile says, just found your channel. It's good to see someone with a balanced viewpoint. Well, I try. Yeah, you might not think that when you see the rest of my videos, but I'm very carefully choosing my words so as not to turn any newcomers to the channel off. But definitely peruse through my work. If you think I've got a balanced view on things, then I highly suggest you look at some of my other work with an open mind and use your brain. Like, don't trust me. Don't just believe me. Don't just believe anybody. Use your God-given senses, your God-given discernment, and take what I say with a grain of salt. If some of it helps you and moves you and is good for you, then keep it. And if you don't like other things that I say, then discard it. But I think that we all have something that we can add to any conversation, really. Home Bliss says he wishes on the warmongers tenfold of what they do to people. Right. I mean, and it does that's about how it is. Like, people that are quick to the sword, in the end, they get what's coming to them. So like the Vedics or whatever would call it karmic justice. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think that karmic justice kind of goes without saying. And, if there is no karmic justice in the afterlife, then I would say I just can't subscribe to that. Like, I feel very strongly that there is balance. Like, if nature is anything, nature is balance, right? So, Talia Rose says they have 2 red heifers that are perfect and will be ready on the 15th of October. Chad the Bee says God has had 2,000 years to straighten things out. Well, I would say, now I'm a follower of Yeshua, so I'm a Christian in a sense, but I I would say look more into the Gnostic texts and the Gnostic philosophy if you want to get a better idea of where I'm coming from. I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but I've got playlists on my channel getting into discernment of the scripture, like discernment of discrepancies in the Judeo-Christian scripture. Also, discernment of some of the so-called Gnostic texts that definitely shine new lights on sort of Christian dogmas that we all are familiar with and grew up with and don't seem to make a whole lot of sense under rational scrutiny. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. God has had 2,000 years to straighten things out, but I also don't necessarily believe that the entity that created flesh is the same entity that created our spirit. Okay. And the Most High that I worship is the one of the Spirit, is the one that is love, that is wisdom, that is forgiveness, that is joy, that is all of these sort of positive vibrational frequencies. And then you have sort of the small g, God of the flesh, that is very vindictive and curses his creation for generations and generations and that sort of thing. But Yeshua's my brother for sure. I've always sort of resonated and default to the position of Yeshua. You know, Yeshua swore by nonviolence, even when they, you know, came at him with weapons, right up to the end when they nailed him to the cross, right? So I think that's really the safest bet, honestly. And now also I will say there's a lot of believe it or not, there's a lot of Christians in Palestine. So if it's merely like a philosophical thing for you, pray for Palestine because there's Christians there. Pray for Palestine because there's innocent people there dying left and right to basically monstrous attacks that's way overkill, way out of proportion. And potentially, you know, you've got that element where we're talking about something like Pearl Harbor, where I'm not going to use the double F word, you know, the double F word. I'm not going to use that. And I'm not going to say that that's necessarily what's happening. More so, it seems to me like certain things were allowed to happen that shouldn't have been allowed to happen. That's a big potentiality. And if that's the case, woe unto the motherfuckers that allowed that sort of thing to happen to their own people in order to justify this barbarism. So prayers for Palestine, prayers for Israel. You know, I stand up for human life. I stand up for decency. I stand up for intelligent conversation. I stand up for nuance. I stand up for the truth. And I even stand up for violence when it's called for. Honestly, there's certain times when violence is definitely called for. Like if a madman is attacking your family with a weapon, you know, I'm gonna get in between that and stop him. Okay. But if somebody wants to ad hominem you, really, you're supposed to turn the other cheek. I'm terrible at that. I tried it for a long time and I'm definitely not Jesus, and I probably should work on that sort of thing, right? Nobody's perfect. But when it comes to vengeance, I think that's really what the heart of it is like, don't have such a vengeful spirit. Don't be so quick to violence. Don't be so quick to judge. Prayers go up, man. Prayers go up for the innocent. All right, love you guys. I'm gonna end it there. Y'all be good. And I've got some new content in the works. Bear with me on that. And I'll see y'all in the next one. God bless. Love y'all much. Bye.